My boyfriend's friends called me a butterface, and my boyfriend co-signed. I had been dating my boyfriend for 2 years, and I thought he was genuinely attracted to me. All of me. He had never called me ugly and often complimented me, whether I was wearing makeup or not. But everything changed one night when he brought his friends over. I usually kept my distance during their gaming sessions, opting to retreat upstairs. But that evening, I found myself walking past the closed door to the bathroom when I heard my name mentioned. Curiosity got the better of me, and I paused to listen, even though I knew eavesdropping wasn't right. What I heard made my heart sink. One of his friends was complaining that I always left the room when they came over. And then he went on to say that while I had a nice body, I was a butterface, a term implying that someone has a great body but an unattractive face. To my shock, my boyfriend laughed loudly at this comment instead of defending me. His only response was that my body was perfect. I felt a wave of emotions crash over me. I didn't think I was ugly, but hearing those words stung deeply. I cried that night, feeling ashamed as my self-esteem took a hit. It hurt even more to realize that my boyfriend found it funny and didn't stand up for me. I've always considered myself decent looking, with shoulder-length brown hair and clear skin. Sure, I could use some eyebrow grooming and I wear glasses, but I'd rate myself a solid 6 out of 10 without makeup and maybe an 8 with it. Was I delusional for thinking I was attractive? The next morning, I felt sick lying next to him, and I couldn't let him touch me. It was clear to me that he was attracted to my body, but not my face, and that realization left me feeling low. 2 days later, I decided to address the situation. I sat him down and told him how hurtful his friends' comments were, and how it stung that he laughed instead of defending me. Initially, he denied it, which only frustrated me more. After some back and forth, he admitted it, but dismissed it as a dumb joke he forgot about. He even suggested that if I didn't care about his friends' opinions, their words wouldn't bother me. I was taken aback. I didn't care about their opinions. I cared that he found it amusing. In that moment, I realized I had to put myself first. I stood up, told him we were done, and walked away. His reaction was shocking. He claimed I was doing him a favor by breaking up with him. I felt heartbroken, but also relieved. I was moving in with my sister, and while I didn't want to end things, I knew I deserved better. After the breakup, he found out about my post online and sent it to me, calling me insecure for seeking advice. He even threatened to sue for slander. Even though I hadn't mentioned his name, I blocked him after he bombarded me with angry messages. I was overwhelmed by the support I received from others who understood my situation. It was comforting to know that prioritizing my peace of mind was more important than staying in a relationship that made me feel less than. I realized that there are plenty of fish in the sea, and I was ready to move on. I never thought I would find myself in a situation like this. But here I am, feeling completely blindsided. It all started when my boyfriend and I were hanging out with his friends one evening. I was excited to meet them, hoping to make a good impression. However, things took a turn I never expected. As the night went on, I noticed some of his friends making snide comments. At first, I brushed them off, thinking they were just joking around. But then, one of them called me a butterface. I was taken aback. For those who might not know, that term implies that someone has a nice body but an unattractive face. I felt my heart sink, and I couldn't believe what I had just heard. I looked at my boyfriend, hoping for some support, but instead, he just chuckled along with his friends. It was as if he was co-signing their hurtful remarks. I felt a wave of humiliation wash over me. I had always thought my boyfriend was different, someone who would stand up for me. But in that moment, he seemed to be more interested in fitting in with his friends than defending me. After that night, I couldn't shake off the feeling of betrayal. I confronted him later, expressing how hurt I was by both his friends' comments and his lack of support. He seemed to brush it off, saying they were just joking and that I shouldn't take it so seriously. But how could I not? It felt like a direct attack on my self-esteem. I started to question everything about our relationship. Was he really the person I thought he was? I began to wonder if he truly valued me, or if he was just another guy who would laugh at my expense to impress his friends. It was a tough realization. And I found myself feeling more alone than ever. In the days that followed, I reflected on our relationship and what I wanted moving forward. I knew I deserved someone who would stand up for me, someone who would never let me be the punchline of a joke. I had to make a decision about whether to continue in a relationship where I felt disrespected. Ultimately, I realized that I needed to prioritize my self-worth. I decided to have one last conversation with him, laying everything on the table. I explained how his actions affected me and that I couldn't be with someone who didn't respect me. It was a difficult conversation, but I felt empowered to stand up for myself. In the end, I chose to walk away from the relationship. It was a hard decision, but I knew that I deserved better. I learned that true love means standing by each other, especially when it matters most.
My 25 men wife, 23 female, is replacing my shirts for a different size. During the pandemic, I found myself gaining weight, which only intensified my long-standing body image issues. I remember trying on a shirt that used to fit me well, only to discover it wouldn't button up anymore. This realization hit hard, and I decided to start exercising and eating healthier. My wife, concerned about my mental health, encouraged me to focus on clean eating without being overly restrictive, even joining me in my efforts. About 2 weeks ago, we attended a friend's anniversary party. It was a bittersweet moment for me when I saw my wife fit into a dress she hadn't worn in a year. I felt a wave of insecurity wash over me, and we ended up leaving the party early because I was overwhelmed. However, after that, I noticed that some of my button-up shirts were starting to fit better, and I was beginning to regain my confidence. One weekend, my wife left to check on her aunt, and while looking for some papers in our bedroom, I stumbled upon a shopping bag tucked away under the bed. To my surprise, it was filled with my shirts, new ones that were a larger size. She had cut off the tags and swapped them out for my older shirts without telling me. I was left feeling confused and unsure about her intentions. What was she trying to achieve? How could I even begin to talk to her about this? After some reflection, I realized that her goal was likely to help me feel better about myself, without triggering my insecurities. I shared my thoughts with her when she returned, and we had an open conversation about it. She explained that she wanted to support me and help me feel more comfortable in my clothes, but acknowledged that she should have communicated her actions better. We also discovered that my struggles with body image were more serious than I had thought. I learned that I was dealing with body dysmorphia and binge eating disorder. It was a lot to process, but I appreciated her support through this journey. We agreed that I should return to therapy to work on these issues together. I also wanted to clarify something for those who commented on my earlier post. When we left the party, it wasn't due to a temper tantrum. I was having a panic attack, and my wife chose to prioritize my well-being over staying at the event. In a committed relationship, it's important to make sacrifices for each other, and she was simply being supportive. Now, I'm wearing shirts that fit me better, and it's made a positive difference in how I feel. We've even started running together in the park, which has been great for both our physical and mental health. I'm grateful for my wife's support and love as I navigate this journey.
Aunt tells me that my paycheck should go towards her son's college fees when she didn't let me stay at her house in order to attend school. I recently landed my first real job, and let me tell you, it feels amazing. After spending months working in fast food, I finally found something that pays a bit better and allows me to save for university. I live away from my parents because I attend an international school in another city, so I've been juggling rent and expenses. To show my appreciation, I decided to gift my first paycheck to my parents. It wasn't a huge amount, but the joy on their faces made it all worthwhile, at least for about 10 minutes. Soon after I shared the news in our family group chat, I received a call from my aunt. Now, I hadn't heard from her in ages, so I was a bit suspicious. She asked about my job, and as it turned out, she had an agenda. My cousin, who is in the same grade as me, is heading off to college, and my aunt thought it would be a great idea for me to contribute to his college fees. She insisted that since I now had a source of income, it was my duty as family to help out. Let me pause here to mention that my aunt has a much larger salary than I do. It seemed pretty clear to me that she was more interested in my paycheck than in supporting her own child. I mean, when I was trying to figure out living arrangements for school. My parents reached out to her to see if I could stay with them. She flat out refused, claiming they didn't have the space. So, my parents ended up getting me a small flat, and I've been working hard to cover my rent and other basic needs. When my aunt started talking about how hard my cousin worked to get into college, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. This is a kid who stays out all night and barely puts in any effort at school. I politely reminded her that most of my paycheck goes toward my own expenses, including saving for my tuition. But she just brushed that off, saying if I could manage that, I should be able to donate some money to her son. At that point, I felt like my hard work was being completely taken for granted, so I hung up out of frustration. Later, my mom called me, confused about why her sister was complaining about me. I explained the situation and she ended up blocking my aunt. It seemed like my aunt was now on a mission to guilt-trip other family members into contributing to her son's college fees, ranting in the family chat about how everyone should help out. Honestly, it felt good to vent about it all. A couple of days later, I was still reeling from the whole situation when I received a wave of support from strangers online. It was heartwarming to see so many people back me up. I decided to cut off contact with my aunt, but that didn't stop her from sending hateful messages through social media, likely from her friends. Then came the family gathering. Every few months, our extended family gets together for dinner, and this time it was at my parents' house. I was excited to go, not just for the food, but also for some quality time with my family. When I arrived, I found out my aunt had been ranting in the family group chat, and we all had a good laugh about it. As dinner rolled around, we all sat at a long table to catch up on everyone's lives. One of my uncles asked how school was going, and my cousin, with a rather smug attitude, announced his exam results. 26 out of 45. Not exactly impressive. Then it was my turn. I proudly shared that I scored a whopping 42. The look on my cousin's face was priceless. In the end, it felt great to stand my ground and celebrate my achievements while navigating the drama. Family can be complicated, but I'm learning to prioritize my own goals and not let anyone else's expectations weigh me down. Let me take you back to a rather chaotic family gathering that turned into an unexpected showdown. It all started when my aunt, who is known for her rather bold opinions, decided to make a scene about my college tuition. You see, I had just received a scholarship, and instead of celebrating my achievement, she stood up and declared that my paycheck should go towards her son's college fees. Yes, you heard that right. Her reasoning? Apparently, I was doing well enough, and my cousin, who she claimed was trying hard and had cut down on his video game time, deserved the same opportunity. Now, I'm not one to judge, but if you're taking the International Baccalaureate program and still have time to play video games, you might just be a genius in disguise. As she continued her speech, she switched to this overly sweet, customer service voice, trying to rally the other relatives to her side. It was almost comical how she subtly shaded those who weren't on board with her plan. I decided it was time to speak up. I told her that I would be happy to donate, but only the same amount she had contributed to my school fees, which was, let's just say, a big fat 0. I thought it was a clever comeback, but it didn't land as I had hoped. My aunt went absolutely ballistic. She started blaming my mother for raising a heartless and stupid child, insisting that I was now of the age to be the family breadwinner, which apparently included her as well. That was the moment my dad stepped in, whisking my aunt away to another room. We could hear him cursing about how she shouldn't be dependent on others. In the end, my aunt stormed out with my cousin, but not before demanding that my mother talk some sense into me. She even went so far as to suggest that I should be disowned. All of this unfolded within the span of an hour, and as I sat there, I couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. To add to the drama, my aunt later took to the family group chat, insisting that if I were to receive a scholarship, it should be handed over to my cousin, and that I should pay for my tuition myself. I mean, that's not how scholarships work, right? Now I want to clarify that I have no hard feelings towards my cousin. He didn't demand anything from me. I think he was just a bit irked that I had scored better on my exams. I don't think he's not smart. I just suspect he's dedicated a lot of his brain power to mastering video games instead of studying. As the dust settled, I couldn't help but reflect on the whole situation. Some family members were supportive, even blocking my aunt in the group chat, while others were yelling into their phones, and a few even offered money, which was quite surprising. Meanwhile, I imagined my cousin retreat into his room, probably thinking, well, she's furious now. Time to play video games until she calms down. In the end, I realized that being disowned by my aunt wasn't really a loss. After all, she hadn't contributed anything to my life, and I was perfectly fine with my own achievements. If she decides to pull any more stunts like this, you can bet I'll be back with another update. Family dynamics can be wild, can't they?